I traveled across the world to attend one of Alex Hormozi's scaling workshops. So I spent the money, I sat in a room, I took the time away from my family, I took the notes, came home, and I applied the principles. And guess what? I doubled my revenue in about 6 months. So in this episode, I'm going to give you the biggest takeaways from the workshop without you needing to travel across the world, spend the thousands of dollars, spend all the time away from your family, or actually sit in a room yourself. Now, I do highly recommend that you do go do one of these if they're on your list of things to do. They are very worthwhile. But here's the lessons without the cost. So I'm Paul Meldrum. Welcome to Build, Acquire, Scale, the Ascend Collective podcast. Just a little background. I started in fitness, and within 2 years, I'd won National Trainer of the Year back to back. I built Australia's first semi-private training studio, and then Australia's first seven-figure semi-private training studio. And after many years of mentoring and coaching trainers, I moved into marketing, consultancy, and business systems, and scaled the Ascend Collective from 0 to 7 figures in under 12 months. And with the scaling workshop, I doubled the speed of that. So these are the same concepts I use every day in my own business, but also to help scale other coaches, consultants, and service businesses every single day as well. So every lesson I've learned is a meta lesson that I actually use with my clients. And it's not just theory, it's what I actually took, used, tested, and actually built from. So I promise you, by the end of this episode, you'll understand the 3 biggest takeaways that I took away from the workshop. You'll start to learn how to think a bit more like an investor in your business, spot the hidden risk that can break your business, and most importantly, I think, apply and identify how to find the real constraint in your business that's the actual real thing from stopping you growing. And if you apply this stuff properly, it can completely change the way you make decisions. You'll be a lot faster, you'll be a lot more effective, and money loves speed. So here's the problem. Most business owners, I'm struggling today, are too close to the business to see the business clearly. You're stuck inside the day-to-day, so client delivery, staff issues, lead flow, sales call, cash flow, admin, content, ads, follow-up operations, everything that kind of gets, has to be done, right? And we keep on solving the problems that allow us, not the problems that actually matter most. And here's the thing that I found, and I did this so much when I was a personal trainer. In fact, it's all I did. I got better at solving the problems I was already good at. So, for example, I was really good at solving biomechanical and pain issues, so I studied more of that. Same with biochemistry. A good coach basically gets better at coaching. A marketer makes more content. A salesperson does more sales calls or improves the script. An operator builds another system. But if that's not the actual constraint in your business, nothing actually changes. You feel busy, productive, and you feel like you're doing shit, but the business isn't moving forward. So there's all this effort here, and then you're not getting the financial reward. So you're like, why am I actually doing this? Which builds up resentment for your business and resentment from your employees and resentment from your staff, and it's just a pain in the ass. So that's the pain. And the thing is, you're working hard, but you're solving the wrong problem. So as soon as we start solving the right problem, that pain disappears. So here are the 3 biggest takeaways. You want to think like an investor, you want to identify value detractors, and you want to solve your real constraint. And I'm going to give you one bonus takeaway that I think every early stage business absolutely must hear. And it's so blindingly obvious, but it's also so incredibly important. So with the first takeaway, think like an investor. The reason for this is to actually change how you look at your business and what lens you're using. You're not using the lens of how I'm looking at the business today. You're looking at what would make this business more valuable over the next 3, 5, or 10 years, not what do I need to fix right now, which changes everything. And the reason it's so important is because we're so busy being reactive and operating and actually dealing with what happens every day, we miss so many things. So when you step away, you start seeing risk, you start seeing bottlenecks, you start seeing where the business depends too much on you. You start seeing what would make the business harder to sell, harder to scale, or harder to run without you. And that really matters. I think it's so important because scaling is not just about driving revenue to the ceiling. It's about removing you from the day-to-day operations of the business so you can think about it as a leader and actually solve for these problems. And when you solve for these problems, what happens there is that your business grows in a compound fashion rather than in a very, very slow linear fashion. So it's really important to be able to step out and think about what would make this business valuable, okay? We're going to talk about a few of these things in the next one, which is identify your value detractors. So a lot of the time we think about how do we get more money? How do we get more? How do we add more services? How do we add more clients? How do we add more revenue? And that's really important. Revenue, super important. We're going to come back to that. But sometimes the fastest way to improve the business is to reduce the risk because you have things really that make your business very fragile. And when your business is fragile and not resilient, that's a problem. So the big value detractors that we can solve for and talk about over the course of a podcast, key man risk, key channel risk, and key customer risk. Okay? Now, every business has these. So when I talk about this to a lot of business owners, they hear these things and they freak out. Every business experiences these. It's not a bad thing that they actually exist. It's just a problem that you need to be aware of how to solve. So key man risk is when the business relies too heavily on one person. Usually that person is you. You are needed for everything, okay? Now, this is a feature, not a bug, of building a business, okay? What it means is you need to start documenting your processes, your SOPs, the ways you do things, take advantage of AI to automate things and to compress the time that it takes stuff to do, and basically solve the problem where everything is relying on you. And the sooner you do this, the faster your business can grow incrementally, because it means other people can do stuff just as good as you. What they can do is they can do more of it because they're not actually drawn into so many different things. One person does one thing really, really well, the business will improve really rapidly. Now, next one, and this one is super important for the online coaches out there and people who are doing digital-based businesses, which is key channel risk. And this is where too much of your growth comes from one channel, okay? So if all your leads come from referrals or one ad account or one platform or one relationship, it's a problem, and you need to solve that. I've seen this with so many online coaches who only use Instagram to get leads. Now, Instagram is fantastic for getting leads. It's really, really good, and you can generate an absolute ton of money from it. But if it's your only platform that you have, if it breaks, guess what? You're screwed. So you need to actually start looking at having multiple acquisition channels of clients, because if you lose one, and that's the only one you use, it's going to be really problematic. The other thing is that most people find out that they actually don't have any solid setup channels that create reliable leads. So if they rely on referrals, for example, that is a bad thing, okay? Ascend started off by relying on referrals. We now have multiple channels on which we can get leads from. So it's very important that you have multiple channels. Now, the last one is key customer risk. And this is an interesting one, particularly with coaches who sell high ticket stuff. It's normally when too much of your revenue comes from one client, one contract, or one type of customer. So if losing one customer can seriously hurt the business, it is a big risk. And I used it to pivot our strategy recently anyway. We did get a pretty solid offer, but there were some key customer risk things that we had, and we have shifted as a response of that. And because having one customer or one relationship basically as a really big lead delivery source is risky, okay? Particularly if it's a volatile relationship, yes, it's absolutely a thing. So with this, it's really important to be able to diversify where your customers come from, and that not one key customer is paying all your bills. I've seen it with people with huge contracts, they rely on them, but all of a sudden government funding gets taken away, they lose the contract, and their business is down like $300,000 overnight. That's a disaster. So you won't always be able to solve for it, but if you do have a customer that does have a huge impact on your income, you need to diversify and get many other customers and many other different types of things to actually solve for that. Okay, so it's a really big conversation that we don't have the room to explore here, but if you find it, it's such a valuable thing to sort out. And the third takeaway, and this is the one that I use every single day in every single relationship, in every single conversation I have, is the theory of constraints. And the basic idea is the rate of growth of a business is limited by the constraint you are operating under and your ability to solve it. And every business has a constraint, and it's always one main thing holding it back, okay? It always happens. That's it. And the problem is, it's not the idea, it's the actual diagnosing of the correct constraint, okay? So when you solve the wrong constraint, you work really hard, you do a lot of things, you feel really busy, but your business doesn't improve, which every single coach can actually identify with. Every single business owner can identify with. I'll use the example of an online coach again. A lot of coaches think the reason the business is not growing is because they need to get better at coaching and doing the thing. They need another course. They need to learn more stuff. Like, if I understand macros better, I'll get better results. If I communicate nutrition better, more people will sign up. If I get better at programming and understand periodization, my business will grow. It will probably improve the service, but it's probably not the constraint in your business. So what goal are you solving for? If it's to get more revenue, it's not the right way to do it. If it's to provide that service, it is the right way to do it. So it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just probably not the right constraint. So if the business doesn't have enough leads, then better coaching is not the thing that's going to unlock that. The actual constraint is lead flow. If you solve that, you create more revenue, and then you can hire support, you can improve delivery, and the next constraint might become sales, then conversion rates, then onboarding or retention of a team, operations, whatever it is. The goal is always the same. It's to find the constraint, break it down, solve it, and then move on to the next one. But the cool thing is, the actual cool thing is, not the fake cool thing, is that each constraint is worth more money. So for example, when I went to the scaling workshop, we had a delivery constraint. And some of the clients that we were delivering to for an offer that we've removed were just taking up too much time. Not that they were bad clients or bad people, it was nothing about that, but the relative time that they took to the money that they brought into the business was not useful, and there was a better offer that was there. So we had to solve that constraint. The constraint was actually a delivery constraint where we weren't having the time to deliver because the offer wasn't right. So, cool, what did we have to do? We actually had to solve the offer. And then once we solved the offer, we figured out how we deliver that in a faster time frame, solved the constraint, doubled the business. Really simple. The problem was the offer and getting the wrong people into the offer. So once we solve that, then we can improve our lead flow and we keep on moving forward now, which is, really nice. That's the power of solving constraints, because we had the fastest revenue growth as soon as we solved for that constraint. One of the most recent constraints we solved actually cost us money. We lost money in solving that constraint, but what it did is it gave us a bigger runway. So you need to sometimes be aware of when solving constraints, it may cause another temporary dip, but that temporary dip, if it's worth it, is worth doing every single time. So here's the bonus takeaway that I think is really, really important to kind of get right. For most early stage businesses, from 0 to 10K, from 10K to 25K, and from 25K to 83K per month, which is $1 million business, the main constraint is going to be lead flow. It's going to be revenue and lead flow. It's not the logo, it's not the colors, it's not the website, it's not the qualifications, it's not the course. It is simply getting people to say, hey, I'm interested in your stuff. Because when you solve for leads, you can create revenue. And when you create revenue, you basically buy yourself the ability to solve better problems. You can hire, you can improve delivery, you can get better support, you can create better content, you can actually breathe and think about your business. But without leads and revenue, everything feels heavier than it needs to. It just feels really tough. So that's why at Ascend, we try and solve that problem for every single business. It is the most common thing we see. So let's recap, okay, and go to what we want to talk about. The 3 biggest lessons in the scaling workshop were, number 1, think like an investor, okay? How can I improve the value of the business and remove its reliance on me? Number 2, find the value detractors. What is actively detracting from the value of the business that would cause a problem if I were to sell it? That solves 2 problems. If you ever decide to sell your business, you're already halfway there. And number 2 of solving the second problem is it also helps remove you from so many things, because you basically are building a business rather than building a busier job. And then finally, find a real constraint. And for most businesses listening to this, the first constraint is always going to be leads and getting enough people to do it. So if you want help working out where the constraint is your business, I can help you break that down. You can book a free coaching call with me. We have the links everywhere where we can look at what is actually stopping your business from growing and what needs to be solved. Or you can use our marketing diagnostic to identify the biggest constraint yourself. Either way, the goal is so simple. Find it, solve it, scale it. Thanks for listening to Build, Acquire, Scale. I'll see you next time.